Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Hard to keep up with the days of the week this week as school's in and out, holiday, but it is Ash Wednesday here, and we're fired up. You are here with us. LSU baseball getting underway here in a matter of moments. We'll briefly talk about that here at the top. Matthew Brune with us in 15 minutes. A lot of reaction to LSU's loss to South Carolina in the women's game on Saturday night, but we'll also talk a little bit about the LSU men's team as well. Very excited for our Oxford segment later on today. Dr. Chris Bankhead going to be with us talking shoulder injuries. I want to talk a little bit about Drew Brees and his road back from that shoulder injury before he ever played it down for the Saints. Drew was in the news the last couple of weeks going to the Hall of Fame, and I just wanted to have a discussion with the shoulder specialist about that, and what better time than that Oxford segment for us to do that. Nathan Woolridge is going to join us in 1 hour. Nathan Woolridge is the president of Peak Events. Peak Events puts on the tournament in Frisco. They put on the tournament in Round Rock. They put on the tournament in Las Vegas. They put on the tournament in Jacksonville, and that's the one LSU will be playing in starting Friday afternoon. He'll have some instructions for you all on how to watch those games, get some tickets to those games, as well as just some overall things about the weekend that LSU will be getting into this weekend in Jacksonville. So excited to talk with Nathan coming up in an hour. Should the Saints draft Cassius Howell, the SEC's Defensive Player of the Year? We'll talk about that in hour number 2 as well. For right now, let's crank it up with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
We're still just a couple minutes away from LSU and Nichols in a rare midweek matinee. Jay Johnson has kind of instituted this into the program over the last 3 seasons, wants to play these February games at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if possible, to keep his guys out of the cold weather. Of course, there is no cold weather here right now, but they're going to go out there and play in 75-degree weather, and everybody is okay with that. So we're not going to talk much baseball today because they'll be playing. So if you want to check that out, you can on our sister station, Eagle 98.1 right now. Patrick Wright and Doug Thompson are on the call. And you can also check that game out streaming and check us out on the radio or on YouTube, however you're making us part of your day. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time on baseball before they started over at the box. Today, Zach Cowan is going to get the baseball to start the game. And I think that is relevant for a couple of reasons. One, he wasn't great in his outing back on Saturday. I was in the box for that one, and he almost slammed the door and then didn't quite get it done, and LSU had to go to the bullpen to get it nailed down. But the question becomes, is Zach Cowan a reasonable option as a starting pitcher should LSU make a move in the rotation? Right now, sunshine and roses, purple and gold glasses, however you want to view it, it's great if Kason Evans, Cooper Moore, and William Schmidt take those spots and run with them. That's perfect. That's ideal. That's mega talents, a proven track record, and more. I'm all for that. But the history tells us there will be changes. History tells us there will be injuries. There will be shortcomings. There will be guys that break out. Things will shift between Valentine's Day and Memorial Day. It's just the way things usually go. So is Cowan a reasonable option to become a starter? The answer to that question is yes, because he was a Friday night starter at Wofford 2 years ago, and he pitched in the Southeastern Conference last year, and for 7 weeks was completely unhittable out of the bullpen. So yes, he absolutely is an option to be a starting pitcher at LSU this season, and I'm not sure if that discussion was had when Cowan decided to go back, or whether or not the pro scouts didn't think he was worth a selection that was going to pry him from Baton Rouge. I'm not sure what the reason was that he came back, but he is an option. To me, he's a little bit down my pecking order. Here's why. One, he's never going to beat you, overwhelm you with the heater. When Zach Cowan is humming and it's 94 degrees outside and he's got some adrenaline going, he can touch 93, 94. He usually pitches at about 92. So he's not going to beat you consistently with the heater. Now, you can pitch at 92. but he's not going to beat you consistently with the heater. The straight change makes the heater play up. No question about it. And that's a positive for Cowan. But does he have anything to get you off the straight change and the heater? And the answer to that question, really for the majority of last year, was usually not. He does not have a great breaking ball. And so it's kind of a two-pitch mix, and you don't have to fear the fastball. So you're really guarding against the changeup, and your hands, if you're an SEC hitter, can probably get to the fastball if you are a little bit late to it. It's not going to blow by you. And so I think that breakdown of him does not disqualify Zach Cowan from being a quality SEC relief pitcher who can go 6 outs, who can get the last 3 outs. I actually trust him implicitly to do that because he induces a lot of weak contact. He can get swings and misses. He absolutely gets ground balls with the way his fastball sinks and with the way his changeup can dive under bats. And I absolutely think that Zach Cowan can get SEC hitters out for a second consecutive year. I would just rather you ask him to get 6 guys out or 5 guys out than 18. That's what I see from Zach Cowan. It's probably what big league scouts thought from Zach Cowan. What I know about Zach Cowan is that his heartbeat is very slow, that he is always going to throw the ball over the plate. He's not going to get rattled by the moment, and that's a very admirable quality in a SEC reliever. And when you got to Omaha last year and that place was playing like Yellowstone and everybody could just wail away and nobody could get out of the ballpark, keep in mind, no one in LSU's team other than Jared Jones hit a homer in Omaha last year. He's the only guy. If you weren't 6'5", 250 pounds, and a top 5 all-time LSU home run hitter, you could not hit a home run in Omaha last year. And that's the setting that Cowan pitched against Arkansas in. And he threw strikes, and he filled up the zone. He didn't walk anybody, and they hit some balls kind of hard, and he got out of things, and he gave LSU a really good start in those conditions. And I would trust him again in those conditions. But in Knoxville, Tennessee, and in Starkville, Mississippi, and against the power bats that you're going to see from some of these teams on LSU's schedule, I'm just not sure I'm going to toss him to the front of the line there. So while I think this start is probably so LSU gets off to a good start and is probably to just give him a chance to get back on the horse after his last outing didn't end the way he wanted it to, I think he is an option if someone should falter in the starting rotation. I don't know if he's the option. I would look at Jaden Newt probably a little bit before him. I would absolutely look at Cooper Williams a little bit before him. And I think there are some other guys with real talent down the line who may warrant a spot here or there. Gavin Guidry comes to mind. That's also down the list because of injury concerns. None of these is a slam dunk, but I'm just kind of tossing some names out there. And one to file away for well down the line and may not be a guy who by week 6 of the SEC schedule is going 97 pitches, but Marcos Paz is always a guy that I'm going to file away on this team as a mega talent who's coming off of injury, who it could click for him. May not, it could click for him. And I mentioned him in the same breath as Zach Hess. The difference in those two, because Hess came on like gangbusters in 2017 and was a freshman and was blowing people away. And I think Paz has that kind of talent, but I also think you're talking about a guy there that's coming off injury. Hess wasn't. So it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. But I'm willing to put Zach Cowan in the group. He's not my lead candidate. He's one of my lead candidates for big outs in the bullpen, maybe 3 of them, maybe 4 of them, maybe 1 of them, maybe 6 of them. That's where I think Zach Cowan's bread is buttered. And now, if you're listening to me live and you're watching this, he's struggling in the first inning against Nichols. That's part of this deal with having a game coming on at the same time as you. He's giving up a home run in the first and a couple of line drive singles. So right now, to this point, his first 2 outings have not been great. That's not to say they won't get better, but right now he's still trying to find it a little bit. The good news is, because like a lot of teams around the country, if you're A or B reliever, however you want to call Cowan from last year, I guess you could literally, if you tried to make the argument, you could call him C because you had Cowan and Evans for really the whole season, and then Shores took over. But if one of your A, B, C relievers from last year was really struggling to get things moving, you'd think, well, that's really not good for our team. LSU's got 9 other guys they can go to to go get huge outs. So you let guys work through some things, and the midweek is for that. The early season is for that. Everybody is having their ups and downs, and you're trying to find roles for pitchers. And Cowan is right there in that mix right now. I'm keeping my eyes open in summation here for guys that could theoretically move into the rotation if someone falters or someone has to miss time. You never want that, but inevitably it usually happens. Is Cowan an option there? I think so. He needs to pitch better than he has in the first 2 games of his 2026 season to this point. So that's our opening drive. We're presented by Renaissance Homes and Pools every single Wednesday. LSU, again, playing at the box right now. They'll be playing the whole time we're on the air, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on baseball today. Tons of baseball on tomorrow's show because, once again, LSU will be on from Jacksonville while we're on the air on Friday. So that's not exactly ideal, but it is what it is. In these early season games, it only happens like 4 times, and then we move on. But we're going to shift away from baseball for the duration of this show. When we come back, what did Matthew Brune learn from LSU and South Carolina on Saturday night? What does Kim Mulkey's team have to do moving forward? And anything that we've got from this LSU men's team, we'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is the website. They're on Segan at Perkins. An amazing place to go hang out and play some golf. If you've never played on a simulator before, just give it a shot. It's a different experience, but it's a lot of fun. It's not the same as playing 18 holes of golf at your local course here. It's not the exact same as going to Pebble Beach and playing, I promise. But it is a ton of fun. You tee it up. It's very, very accurate in terms of how you hit the ball and the trajectory of your shots and where they go. It gives you an accurate reading of where you need to hit it, and you can hit your second shot in with those irons. And then if you need to chip and putt, you can do that as well. And it's a way to card a score, to play some golf, to be out of the elements, and to do it maybe a little bit more quickly than you do anywhere else. It's a ton of fun. Get on by with your friends and do it. They'll deliver you a bucket full of beers or seltzers. They got wine in there. You can turn on the television, crank the tunes. Play Pebble Beach, play Cypress Point, play TPC, Sawgrass, or Scottsdale. They're all there on the simulator. It is a ton of fun. Go by and see them, Segan at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Weather's warming up. Baseball's in the air. It means it's time to get that pool started for the summer if you want to. Renaissance Homes and Pools, happy to get that kick-started for you for 2026. Joey Blanchard and his team are phenomenal. They've done it for dozens and dozens of folks in the Baton Rouge area. So check them out at builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com. Get started with that consultation, the design work, pouring, digging, finishing. You can be in that pool by the time the weather hits 90 degrees around here. Check them out online at builtbyrenaissance.com. Let's talk some hoops. Matthew Brune with the Bengal Tiger, part of the team at the On3 with us on Wednesdays, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Hunt. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
It's our pleasure. What was the environment like in the PMAC on Saturday night for LSU in South Carolina?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, that was, again, the games against South Carolina are always raucous. I remember the one 2 years ago. This was more of the same. I mean, it was incredible, start to finish. I mean, basically a sellout, loud. You know, everybody was invested. It was a really good game. The first half was awesome, and then kind of the second half, I think, got away from them a little bit. But, I mean, just in terms of atmosphere and, you know, LSU fans being LSU fans and making it a home court advantage, you can't ask for anything more.
What did you learn about Kim Mulkey's team, positively or negatively, in the game?
You know, if we start positive, I still think they match up pretty well. You know, Ocott, the center for South Carolina, did have 17 rebounds, but it didn't feel like the front court was like overwhelmed, which was my concern going in. It didn't feel like Ocott and Joyce Edwards were really dominating the game. So I do think that is a positive. You know, just the negative side is they need more and more from the point guard position. You need Mylasia Full-Wiley and Jada Richard combined to go, I think it was 2 of 18, yep. And that's just not good enough at this level.
So if those two are going to go 2 of 18 and Tessa was throwing shots in from all over the place and wasn't even hitting the rim, and you still had your best player at the line down 1 with 45 seconds to go, like, do you feel like that's a positive for LSU to take from the game, even though it was at home and you won't be playing those ladies at home in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I do think that's positive. Again, you look at this loss, all of their losses this year. I could say that they very easily could have won those games. I know the game at Texas was got out of hand in the fourth quarter, but obviously, Kentucky, you lose at the last second. Vanderbilt, you're up with 3 or 4 minutes left, so they continuously have opportunities to win these games. That I think closing these games out and finding offense late is really going to be the key. And I think Flau'jae said it after the game. Now it's about figuring out how to win these close games, figuring out how to pull out these games against top 20 teams consistently.
Is there something that Kim will be focusing on over the next couple of weeks before NCAA tournament play with this team? Is there a glaring weakness or something they've got to get better at, or is it just continue to play out the schedule and hope your best basketball comes when that time of year comes?
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a glaring weakness. Like I said, I think Jada Richard had been really good through the first month of conference play. In the last 3 games, she's really struggled. So you need to get her back in form. I think with Full Wiley, it's kind of just role definition for her, understanding where she can and can't kind of impact the game. She obviously came in just way too hyper excited against South Carolina. Her former team had a couple turnovers early. They need those two, I think, to be clicking. Michaela Williams and Flau'jae, they have their ups and downs, but they're still kind of your veterans who you want to trust going into March. I think that point guard position will be huge because I think ultimately, even with some of my concerns in the front court, they're not dominating down low the way that they, maybe you would like a Kim Mulkey team to. They're still holding their own. They're still being efficient. The freshmen are playing well, so I don't have too much to gripe about here. I think, like you said, it's just playing your best basketball and tightening the screws as you go into March.
When it comes to South Carolina specifically, is there a common thread between the games over the years that you have identified, or is it just they're really good, they're tough to beat, and LSU hadn't gotten over the hump?
I think, and people on our board kind of feel the same way. It's kind of like it does feel like those Nick Saban Alabama teams where when you need a play to be made, they just kind of find ways to make it, and they know how to win. I think the culture is really strong there, and obviously they have very talented players, but I think LSU talent for talent is right there with them this year. It's just late in the game, you need a stop, you need a bucket. They kind of just are really professional in how they operate, and not saying LSU isn't professional, not saying that obviously there's UConn, there's all these other teams that are great, but I don't know, when South Carolina, when it comes to LSU, just kind of finds ways to win, and that's obviously been the case even with Kim Mulkey at LSU.
Matthew Brune is our guest, covers hoops for team over at the Bengal Tiger on 3, with us on Wednesdays talking hoops. Last night, LSU did what it does and fell behind by 15 points, and then McKinnon went nuts, and then he didn't shoot in the last 2 minutes of the game, which was puzzling to me. What did you make of LSU's decisions down the stretch last night?
Yeah, that was frustrating. I think the one where Jalen Reese went in there against Vakaitis, their 7'1" center, was the first one that really had me puzzled. And then they had an underneath out of bounds, and they get it to Pablo Tamba for 3, who doesn't even hit the side of the backboard, goes behind the backboard, and you're like, okay, this is it's just, again, there's not enough players on this team to really spread the wealth here. I think you need to force feed McKinnon here when you can. You need to force feed Nwoko when you can. Jalen Reese played a fine game for the most part, but again, he's still kind of figuring it out. So it's hard because on one hand, like you said, they competed, they played well, they stuck around, they didn't quit on the road down 15. The first half took a real punch, but it's just, late game execution. You have to be perfect when you don't have the talent, and they were not.
Jalen Reese is somebody we would probably talk about if there was any certainty in college basketball or collegiate athletics for next year, because he's been thrust into action, and I thought was great on Saturday. Matt McMahon said he really grew up, and then 8 assists last night, knocked down a couple threes. I thought he was pretty good, but it's not really use talking about him because I don't know if he's on the team next year, right? But what would you suggest about his development now that he's got to play all the time without De'Don Thomas out there?
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's pretty crazy because in theory we should be talking about him. I mean, the last 2 games played all 40 minutes against Tennessee, and then last night I think it was 8 assists to 1 turnover. Just a really strong game. And again, he's going to have his lumps. There are moments where he looks overwhelmed, or he maybe takes a bad shot, or he's not shooting the 3 as well as he will in 2 or 3 years. But as a freshman point guard at 6 feet tall, you really can't ask much more from him being thrown into the SEC. So the development's been really impressive. I think you look at what Thomas has done and you look at what Reese has done, and if you're Matt McMahon, you're like, okay, well, our point guards are playing about as well as we could expect them to play between those two. And if you had told me going into the year that Thomas had that stat line and Jalen Reese was going to be a serviceable, if not, capable backup, I would have been, all right, ooh, this sounds like this team can do things. But obviously with Thomas's injury, Reese is not quite ready for a full-time starting role in the SEC right now as a freshman.
Here's a big picture question, and you can kind of take it however you want. LSU's not playing for anything this year, and we know that next year's team will have to prove it in the SEC no matter who the head coach is. What kind of SEC do you see moving forward? We know how good last year was, but Kentucky doesn't have Calipari anymore. Bruce Pearl's not there at Auburn. A&M is a different program now than they once were. How do you assess the strength of the SEC overall as LSU tries to find a way to compete in it moving forward?
Yeah, so last year was definitely the outlier year.
Yeah.
That's an outlier year for any conference, but definitely the SEC. And I think you look at the money, and I've said this before, but there's a top group that is all in on basketball, right? The Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, Florida, I think has reached that point now. There's a few others. I think Texas, although they may not be all in, still has a lot of money, so it kind of feels that way just in terms of how much they could spend. You go to a list of those teams that have a lot, and then after that, I think it's really open. Like you look at what LSU spent on a roster this year, it's not dissimilar. It's not significantly less, and it might not be less than at all compared to, an A&M, Georgia, even Vanderbilt, who has a really good team this year, is spending a ton. South Carolina, the Mississippi schools. Like LSU can be in that group of, all right, after the top 5 or 6, everybody else is resource-wise in the same boat pretty much. And I think that's all LSU fans are hoping for at this point. It's like, all right, we're not going to be Kentucky. You're not going to be Tennessee. All right, that's fine. But after that, you should be competitive with the Mississippis. You should be competitive with Oklahoma, if not better than Oklahoma, Missouri, go down the list. And so I think that's ultimately where LSU wants to find itself, is that, all right, we might not be top 5 every year. Can we be in the 6 to 10 range every year? Like, that is a tournament team 90% of the time. And even if the SEC isn't great, like this year it's not great, it's still the deepest conference in the country. So you're going to have ample opportunities for quad 1, quad 2 games and a resume boost, every single week. So I do think the SEC is the deepest conference every year. But in terms of top tier, like as we've seen this year, it's fallen off quite a bit. So, I think that kind of covers my thoughts on the SEC there.
We appreciate some time, Matthew. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, hon. Anytime.
Matthew Brune, the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 team over there. I've got thoughts on last night and then like some big picture stuff that I want to get into with basketball. I reject the notion that, quote unquote, I use air quotes here, LSU just doesn't care about basketball. And I reject the notion that LSU fans, quote unquote, don't care about basketball. I do not reject the notion that LSU fans don't care about this basketball team today. That is very clear. I get that. I do. I care. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to pull for them. I hope they do well. I know this fan base does not care. But if you were just functional, people care. I've been in this town for almost 20 years. I went here in the 80s when it was the top dog. But I've been here when they've been good. And people care. And people are ticked off about this, and that shows they care. Not everybody about this team, but about the program as a whole. And to Matthew's point, yes, you should be able to be the 7th best team in the league. Like, that is not unreasonable. There's no reason whatsoever Ole Miss, Mississippi State should be better than LSU year in, year out. There's no real reason Georgia should be better year in and year out. There's no real reason Missouri should be better year in and year out. A&M either. Like, it's just not. I got you with Tennessee. I got you with Kentucky. Florida's got it cooking. I mean, I think Auburn's going to crash back down to earth. I think their program is toast after Bruce Pearl left and handed off to his son, who I don't think is capable. But you're not. You're just not. So it's an interesting spot. And I don't challenge y'all. I invite you to read my piece on LouisianaSports.net right now, which is in reference to Verge Osbury's quotes on Matt Moscona's show yesterday, maybe Monday. I can't. All the days are the same. I can't.
Cassie said yesterday.
Okay, yes, on yesterday's show. Yeah, it was yesterday because I wrote it this morning. So that's right. And yeah, I mean, he talked about being good at everything, and that's going to be very expensive. And so you have to kind of pick and choose your spots, and that's where I understand that LSU men's basketball is not going to get the investment that Kentucky and probably Arkansas are getting. But you hope LSU's baseball program gets more investment than Alabama and Kentucky get. It's give and take. It's an interesting deal, and I'm not going to stop supporting the basketball team. I'm not going to talk about them as much this time of year because y'all don't want to hear about it. And I'll be candid. Like, if LSU was playing at 6 o'clock against Nichols tonight in baseball, we'd do 90 minutes on baseball today, and I'd do 10 on basketball. But because the baseball team's literally playing right now, it just doesn't do me a lot of good to dive into that currently. I hope that's a grand slam I just saw hit.
Yes, it was.
That's good to hear. Trent Caraway with a grand slam. We'll talk about that briefly. I like that. LSU gives up one in the first, comes back with a 5 spot in the second. Caraway with a little bit of power. That's all good. We'll come back and do What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is that website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I told y'all, I bought a house and then started dating my now wife, and she moved in. And I hadn't thought about the closet space in the house. I liked where it was. I liked the setup in the living room, and the kitchen was pretty functional. I thought the house was good. She was like, this closet space sucks. It's like, okay, well, what do we do? Well, we realized we're going to move because we got another kid coming along the way. But you don't have to do that to get great closet space. You call David Duvall, One Bath and Closets. He can take your current closet space and bring it back to life with a customization. He can also build out new closets. So if you're looking at your closet and it's jam-packed and full and you don't have anywhere to put your shoes and you got suitcases jammed places and things are wrinkled when you pull them out and you can't find anything, you're shining lights on places because don't do any of that. Customize a closet with David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. He's been doing this for 30 years. He can help you. Check out the pictures on the website, onebathandclosets.com. You'll see how functional they are and how gorgeous the work is. Get that free consultation today at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
March Madness is heading to Vegas, and LouisianaSports.net is sending one of you plus a friend with it. We're giving away a free 3-night Las Vegas getaway from Wednesday, March 18th through Saturday, March 21st. Just in time to watch all the madness. Hotel stay, flights are covered, and all you have to do to enter is head to LouisianaSports.net, click the March Madness getaway link, sign up before our March Madness Pick'em launches. Get yourself entered. You could be watching the tournament from Las Vegas instead of your couch. Winners will be announced Monday, March 2nd.
That's one of our best promos ever there.
Oh, really? You think so?
All expenses paid up to Vegas to watch the tournament?
I read it.
Oh, come on. I'm not talking about how you
I
read.
was like, I appreciate that, huh?
This is second grade? We can read around here.
Right,
I'm trying to
right.
send people to Vegas to watch basketball. My God, Jordan.
I was like, thank you, man. I thought it came real strong with that one.
Oh, my heavens. I'm trying to send people to Vegas to watch hoops. Fabry Chevrolet GMC, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Fabry Chevrolet GMC under new ownership. They've been in business 35 years, the Fabry family has, but just now on October 1st of last year took over Chevy GMC there in St. Francisville. Look, you're looking for a truck, Chevy Silverado is up to $11,000 off MSRP or 1.9% APR financing. GMC Sierras up to $13,000 off MSRP. 0.0 APR financing from Fabry Chevrolet GMC. You can find the entire inventory online at FabryChevrolet.com or stop by in St. Francisville on Highway 61. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you in there and get behind the wheel of a brand new truck in 2026 at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. All right, we'll talk to Auctioneer's Chris Bankhead, who is a shoulder specialist, coming up. I want to go back in the Wayback Machine and talk about Drew Brees' injury, if he'll humor me with that. Plus, some thoughts on youth baseball injuries, as well as it's that time of year where kids are going to start pitching in some cold weather and whatnot. See what he sees from that perspective. So we'll do that coming up in 10 minutes. But right now, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, so what if Bryce Harper went to LSU?
You read that perfectly. That was a really good read.
Hey, man, I practiced that, man. 12th grade reading level.
So this is not out of nowhere. He was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast with Will Compton.
Okay.
And they asked him, like, if you were to play college baseball, like, where would you have gone? And he actually answered the question. He's like, LSU, Florida, like, some of those big baseball schools were on my list. Like, LSU was pretty high up on my list. Now, let's be clear. Bryce Harper was a super famous, like, 9th grade baseball player who skipped a year of college and went to junior college early so he could get in the draft. Like, he was freakish from his perspective and was never going to play college baseball ever. But to say that he was thinking about LSU, I'll take it. You're talking about a guy who's from Vegas. That would have been very fun to watch. Bryce Harper against college pitchers with a metal bat, he would have been just pumping balls onto Nicholson. It would have been something to see. But he got rich as the first pick in the draft, so he didn't do that.
So, Hunt, do you think Bryce Harper has lived up to the hype as a 2-time MVP?
I do. I mean, look, he's not the greatest player ever lived, but he's a multi-time All-Star, multi-time MVP, clutch hitter in the postseason.
Yes.
Has been phenomenal for 2 different franchises and has made, $600 million in his career. So I would suggest he's lived up to it all.
Okay, so what if Chris Sale thinks he's thrown a strike with 2 outs and the bases are loaded?
Well, if you listen to Chris Sale, he's not going to do anything. They have the ability to challenge pitches moving forward.
Okay.
You can tap your hat if you're the batter, the catcher, or the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Sale went on the record for no reason this week and said, I'm never challenging a pitch. That's not my job.
What?
I just don't believe him. You're telling me if you got 2 outs in the 7th and the bases are loaded and the tying run is on 3rd and you throw a pitch you think is a strike and they call it a ball, he's just going to be like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah, no.
No, he's not going to do that.
No, not
He's
even
going to
close.
tap his hat. But he's painted himself into a corner now.
Yes.
Where he's like, I'm never going to do that. And then if he does, you're like, well, you said you were never going to do that. So, like, you could just not do it. But saying it is a weird thing to go out and do. And he did that, which is
It's
bizarre.
a weird hill to die on.
Yeah.
And if you were the manager for the Braves, what would you say to him after that little excerpt comes out?
How about challenge it?
Like, come on, man, we're not doing that around here. So what if you can chat with Mick Cronin?
I don't know if I want to chat with Mick Cronin, quite frankly, because what we're about to play is not like out of nowhere. This happens like 3 times a year. If you're unfamiliar with the situation, Michigan State played UCLA last night in East Lansing. Michigan State got after him pretty good. There are 2 players on UCLA's team that previously played at Michigan State. One of them got into a nearly physical altercation, had too hard a foul, and Cronin literally kicked him out of the game, sent him to the locker room. The other one was getting chanted at by the Michigan State student section. And you're going to hear this sound of a reporter. I don't know the age of the reporter, the outlet of the reporter, anything, but he was traveled from East Lansing theoretically from LA to East Lansing to ask this question. And you get back-to-back questions, it's back and forth. And Cronin, you be the judge, sounds like a complete jerk to me in this segment.
What was your thought in the student section chanting Booker's name?
I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section.
I just meant the overall the way that you
I would like to give you a kudos for the worst question I've ever been asked.
Did you like
You should take it.
the preparation of
Do you really think I care about the other team's
No, I don't.
student
I don't
section?
think you care about the other.
Are you
teams.
raising your voice at me?
No, I'm just.
Yeah, you are.
talking.
Yeah, you are. Come on, dude.
No reason.
Come on, dude. Yes, you were. Everybody's standing here listening to you. Everybody, this is on camera. They can hear you. I answered the question. I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section. I coach UCLA. I don't care about Michigan State students. I mean, who cares?
It's just an inappropriate way to handle yourself in the moment. And I realize that most people side with coaches and not with media just as a general rule. But the question, while I don't think it was a good question, did not warrant complete disrespect and a tripling down by Mick Cronin, who, by the way, came back at the end of that and said, I answered your question. The altercation got escalated there because he said, I'm going to give you kudos for the dumbest question I've ever gotten. And the reporter said, okay, I'll take it. And Cronin, at that point, when the press conference was continuing on, said, well, you should take it. Like, he elevated everything. I get that coaches can be in a tough spot after you lose a game to go in there when you're in an emotional state and answer questions. There's just no reason to treat people that poorly. It's a very easy question to answer. Like, yeah, they had a great environment tonight. We didn't handle ourselves very well, and we'll work on that. Like, and just get over it. Instead of attacking the guy with, that's the dumbest question I've ever been asked, and then going back after him, and then having the audacity to go, you're raising your voice. The guy raised his voice in this way, like not like attacking him. And he's like, yes, you did. Yeah, like he's just like he's the alpha, and everyone needs to submit to him. You're not the alpha. You're the jerk. You're the jerk in the situation. There's a decorum in a press conference, and there are times where reporters who are homers attack a coach who's just lost. And in that instance, I have I'll give some leash to a coach. There was nothing personal about this at all. It was, what do you think about the student section? If you think it's a stupid question, say, wasn't really my concern tonight. I'd like to play better basketball. Yep. Next. It's just, but to be just mean and unpleasant routinely is ridiculous. And if I were UCLA's athletic director, I would go to Mick Cronin, and I wouldn't say like you're fired. I would just say, Mick, can we please just not be so grouchy toward people in these deals? I get it, tough loss, and I support you, and I got your back, and this is all behind closed doors. But we gotta chill with just being the joke of the internet because we're a jerk. We gotta stop doing that. I don't like when people don't treat people well, and that's a clear example of just being ridiculously disrespectful for no reason.
Literally. And the whole, are you raising your voice at me? What is he, 16 or something? Like, come on, man.
It's absurd.
Get a break. So what if LSU announced game times for February games 2 days in advance?
So they're playing these games in the afternoon because they don't want to play in the cold. Well, we know, like, a week out, it's not going to be cold.
We do.
There may be a travel explanation for this one. I think LSU's getting on a plane to Jacksonville this evening to go, so maybe that's why this game is in the afternoon. And trust me, this is not like me, the 1 o'clock radio host, ticked off they're playing at 1 o'clock. I would rather the guys stay healthy. I can do the radio show like this. I don't need first-round pick pitchers out there when it's 31 at 7 o'clock at night. I get it, but it feels like if this is not a travel-related thing and Nichols is
right down
from
the
Thibodeau, we can play at 6. People can go. Like, nobody can go to this game. It's Wednesday at 1 o'clock. I think if they could do a little bit of a slide, I think everybody would be okay with it. It's not on TV. It's just streaming. So we tell Ben McDonald and Lynn Rollins, here's when you'll be here. I think the radio team can make some adjustments. Yeah. We play these baseball games at 1 o'clock in the morning all the time. We can make some adjustments here. And I would like them to try to put a slide in. And if you see 5 days out, 10 days out, hey, we're getting 75 on that Wednesday, let's bump it back to 6. I would be good with that. And if we see, hey, that we've got a 6 o'clock game and it's going to be 48, let's play at 1. As long as we don't do it like the morning of, I think that's fine.
No, you're right. You know, a lot of things that make sense, people don't do, so that's why they're not going to do it. So that's it for What If Wednesday.
Take a time out. Come back with the folks at Oxner next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Looking for that Generac home standby generator? You should be. It's such a great gift of peace of mind to yourself to get that home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. You know, if there's a hurricane and you ride it out, you're not going out of power. You know, if there's a hurricane and you evacuate, you come back, your house has power. You know, if there's a winter event like we had 3 weeks ago, you're not going to lose power. Sometimes we just have those nasty summer showers that roll through. Make sure you've got power and go with the local team at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running this shop for 40 plus years. They're local. They give you incredible customer service. If you've bought a Generac home standby generator from one of the big box stores, you're not happy with your customer service, get that Boudreaux's Boost so they'll come in and service that generator for you. Better care, better service. Call them at 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562, or at the Gonzales location, 225-300-9389. That's Boudreaux's Electrical.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Time now for Sports Health, presented by Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Do this every couple of weeks. Our pleasure to welcome in Dr. Chris Bankhead, specializes in orthopedic sports medicine with a focus on the shoulder, hip, and knee. Going to have to give us some time here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Dr. Bankhead, thanks for that time. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Since we last spoke, one of the bigger news in sports, and certainly in local sports, is Drew Brees going to the Hall of Fame. And we all know what an unbelievable run he had here in the state of Louisiana with the Saints. But it was an inauspicious start, not because of the hurricane specifically, but more so because of his health. He went down to Miami and was not cleared by the Dolphins and ultimately ended up in New Orleans coming off that shoulder injury. It was a long time ago, but this is kind of your specialty, and I was hoping you could maybe talk a little bit about what an improbable run that was for him after that injury.
Yeah, I think, he had truly a catastrophic injury. I actually went back and watched a little video of it today. I don't know if you recall, but his shoulder, so it dislocated below the socket, right? Your shoulder's a ball and socket joint. And so the ball needs to sit within that socket. He got landed on the bottom of a pile looking for a fumble, I think. And his arm was stuck up, meaning the whole humeral head was stuck below his socket, which is really less than 1% of shoulder dislocation. And generally considered to be the absolute worst. One, because of kind of the place where it strips the labrum from. Two, because of the rotator cuff injuries involved. And three, because all your nerves and vessels are down there. So honestly, he's really lucky that he didn't have an even worse injury than what he had.
It's amazing. It probably comes as no surprise to you that Miami looked at that and said, we're not going to invest big money in a 5'10" quarterback with that injury and went with Dante Culpepper instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just playing the odds, right? So when you look at kind of rates of return to sport after injuries like that, position players are one thing, throwers are another. The shoulder is kind of the most mobile joint in your body. I mentioned it's kind of a ball and socket joint. And so there's a delicate balance between kind of stabilizing it and make sure it doesn't pop out, but still allowing it the range of motion needed to throw a ball, right? I think, and I'm not an expert on what his career was before that, but I think it probably helped him that he's, to make a baseball analogy, a little bit more of a Maddox than a Skeens, if that's fair.
Yeah, no question. He's a guy that just he thrived off accuracy and had a brilliant career after that injury happened. You mentioned baseball, and I wanted to touch on that as well. I'm a huge Cubs fan, and there's a lot of discussion in Chicago about the amount of players the Cubs are sending to the World Baseball Classic, specifically a couple of pitchers. And I know that ownership groups and general managers aren't wild about the timing of the World Baseball Classic coming this early in the calendar as they're trying to ramp guys up in terms of the baseball season to come. What's your thought on the risk that pitchers may be incurring, specifically with shoulders, as they go out there and maybe turn things up to a notch they wouldn't usually turn it up to in March?
Right. I think first off, you got to make sure they're completely healthy. Yeah. So especially when you look at guys who maybe had issues the year before, I'd feel a lot more nervous about them. Any guys that, we always start when we're talking about pitchers and throwers, we start from the ground up, right? So it may seem kind of unrelated, but we think, man, has he had any ankle problems? Has he had hamstring problems? Has he had hip problems? And you kind of work your way up. And if you kind of check off all those boxes, then I think you feel a little more comfortable with it. But surely, if you're investing big money in these guys, you're always a little nervous when they're playing so competitively. Kind of before everyone else, right before the start of the season.
And it feels like this day and age, guys stay in better shape than they used to. Spring training used to be because guys were coming down there way out of shape and needed a month to figure out how to play baseball again. That's not necessarily the modern athlete at this point. Youth injuries in terms of pitchers this time of year, do you all see an uptick in that with the cold weather and youth pitchers?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much the cold weather as much as it is just like the quick ramp up, right?
Yeah.
And so guys, they go from maybe playing basketball. Hopefully they're playing another sport first before they come back to baseball. And then you kind of ramp up quickly. I think that's probably where we see the most. And younger growing people, they have these growth plates, right, that are sort of these mysterious things. But really it's the soft area of the bone in an area that sees a lot of torque. And so sometimes you can just get additional inflammation and kind of pain that comes from those spots. And so generally, we see a lot of those that we rest and kind of have to talk through that, but they end up having good outcomes.
Dr. Bankhead, we really appreciate some time. We'll catch up soon.
All right, thanks.
That is Dr. Chris Bankhead with Ochsner at Ochsner Andrews Orthopedic Sports Medicine Institute. We know that sports injuries can be unpredictable. One situation you can protect yourself from is heat illness. That sounds ridiculous to talk about today, right? But you know how quickly that comes upon us. If you're starting baseball, softball right now, it'll be here by the end of the season. Some key signs to look out for: excessive sweating, dry mouth, dizziness, fast heart rate, change in mental status. Feel any of those symptoms? Stop physical activity immediately and find a place to cool off and replenish fluids. To learn more about sports injury prevention and treatment, visit ochsner.org/BRortho. Reminder about our friends at Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com, built by Renaissance.com. I give you Joey's number every single week because that's the guy you need to text. That's the guy you need to talk to if you're looking to get that new pool or outdoor kitchen put in. You're thinking, well, who's Joey? Joey is the owner of Renaissance Homes and Pools, and he's who you deal with start to finish. You know you're dealing with a local company, with a company that cares about the community and has an understanding of how to do business here in Baton Rouge. So if you're looking for that new home, if you're looking for that new outdoor kitchen, if you're looking for that new pool, Joey Blanchard can help you out with that. Give him a text, 225-252-7745. Again, that's 225-252-7745. Shoot Joey a text. Say, hey, I'd like to get a new pool. He'll get right back to you if he can. All right, let's talk about LSU baseball here. They got a 5-1 lead in the bottom of the second inning. We hadn't talked much baseball since our opening segment. We're going to talk some other things as we move forward in hour number 2. We'll first step aside for national headlines with SportsCenter. We'll come back with hour 2 of a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
GoTro's Outdoor Power. GoTro's Outdoor Power. It's about to be grass cutting season. You know that. Get that weather warming up. You see those clovers start to sprout up. That means that grass is going to start growing. If you're trying to get behind the wheel of a new zero-turn mower, how about the folks at GoTro's Outdoor Power? Got the largest inventory of Hustlers in the state between their 2 locations. You got Airline Drive, where you can't miss that massive inventory of orange mowers. Just look to the side. You'll see them. Also got a great location down in Gonzales. Check them out online and get behind the wheel of one of those new Raptors. You can do it for less than $100 a month. Think about what you pay someone to come mow your yard. If you do, $100 a month, you get that own mower, you cut that expense down. That's what they can do for you at GoTro's Outdoor Power. They've got an incredible customer service department. Need delivery of parts, need delivery of the equipment itself. They do that. Do the big box stores? No. That's why you need to check out my friends at GoTro's Outdoor Power. Get you new zero-turn mower.